Спасибо. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good morning. Delighted to be back in Moscow. Last week, in Switzerland, something was going on. And the theme of what was going on was the spirit of dialogue. And I was watching some of the videos and the podcast from last week, sitting in Abu Dhabi, my home, and knowing that to have the right conversation, I had to go to Moscow. So when we talk about human capital, and human capital was one of the big trends that we heard this morning, and also from Cheng's presentation, we heard a lot about imagination and having agency in the type of future we want to create. In all this topic, I think we are having the wrong conversation. It is a conversation that has been crafted and nurtured and manufactured for a few years, at least for the past 30 years. And since AI is not the first technological revolution and will not be the last, I think today, with you, I would like to enter into a new conversation that will hopefully change the game. And what is the game? The game is something very profound. It is about how do we make people, human beings, thrive in the new world of work. Simple question. The answer could be complicated. But I am a woman who likes simplicity because the world is complicated enough. So today, we are going together to look at how do we thrive and what is thriving in the new world of work. And on purpose, I am not referring to the future of work. We'll talk about that in a moment. I am referring to the new world of work that is already with us. So the roadmap that I have prepared for this conversation that is much needed has 3 simple steps. First of all, we are going to get rid of the current conversation, which I call a rear view mirror on how work is changing. Then we will start looking into what could a new paradigm for human development, what we technically call human capital development, be? How could it look like? How does it look like? Because it's already with us. And then once we understand that, we can then have the conversation about, great, where do we go from there? How do we make this work? Because the spirit of open dialogue is also to give us, collectively, tools and ideas and frameworks that we can start using and we can start experimenting with. So if you all agree with me that this is our roadmap, let's go straight into something really, really important. Why are we having this conversation? When you think about what we hear, what we read, what we listen to about the future of work, fundamentally, we hear about losing jobs, people, all of us, becoming very miserable, losing jobs and changing jobs, even if jobs are not changing on us, graduates, young people, having invested time and money, many countries, a lot of money, to study, and then, at the moment, not finding suitable occupations. If you listen to Elon Musk last week, he mentioned the world where nobody will need to work, and we will all live on some form of basic income, And I'm already starting to think, how would my life look like without the pressure and the joy of earning a living? Because work is not only a means to money. Work defines us, defines our identity, helps us to grow, just like being in school and going through some form of education helps us become the people that we are today and that we will continue to become. I am tired of this conversation, and I am leading a group of scholars and researchers who are getting rid of the conversation. So when we talk about the impact of AI on jobs, it's kind of like take a cake. A cake has the icing, the sugar on top. The cake is the system of work. On top, the icing is, let's put a bit of AI, let's talk about a bit of skills, and let's talk about the jobs that we will lose and how jobs will change. That is the conversation. We are not talking about the cake itself. The cake itself is the most important part because the ingredients of the cake are changing. How I am baking the cake is changing. And which name am I going to give to this cake is also changing. The taste and the texture of it are changing. So you will agree with me that it's time to move on. I don't want to use the word reject because it's a very strong word. But it's time to move on from this conversation and move to something more meaningful. The conversation that we want to move away from has two poles. Job apocalypse, also called job apocalypse, interesting English word, or the future is fearless, and everything and anything in between. This is leaving people, us, our youth, our countries, kind of wondering, where do I go from here? What do I do when everything I hear is from phenomenal, fearless future, all the way to a future that is scary? I don't know what my place will be in it. I don't know how I will remain relevant or become relevant. Why am I investing so much time and money in education at any stage in life if this is what I'm going towards? And Sheng's presentation earlier on, I don't know, Sheng, where you are, is probably doing an interview at the moment, but he spoke to us about the importance of imagination and the importance of putting the human in the center. So I want to put the human in the center. This is the purpose of my life, of what I do. And let me explain to you a little bit of what I would like to share with you today. I became associated with a phrase that you see here behind me: skills alone won't carry the future. I am 57 years old, so I am a Gen X, if you use generations. I was born in 1968, the generation of, revolutions in terms of music and power, etc. And I have worked in industry most of my life so far, over 30 years, in 4 industries, before I entered education. I did my doctorate late in life. At 49, I started my doctorate. So I think I have experienced a little bit of what I'm talking about, because I like to live what I preach, right? There is an obsession that we have about skills. You hear a lot upskilling, reskilling. You never hear de-skilling or moving skills or moving beyond skills. Why do I say that skills aren't enough? This obsession, we need to let it go. Because if we simply think that skills will make us earn more money, live a happier life, find or keep a job we love, prepare our youth for the future, we are only looking at the sugar on the cake. We are only looking at the icing on the cake. What we really, really need to consider is the system of work and how that is changing. Because once I understand that, then I will be able to understand the mechanisms, the shifts that are happening, and my place in making those shifts, creating the future I want, and living with those shifts. So the different conversation that we are having is about how is work changing? A simple question, not a complicated one, but one that is at the heart of the paradigm shift that I represent here with you today, called future readiness. So how is work shifting? First of all, any shift is not coming from the sky. Just because technology is available doesn't mean we are using it, right? So we need to talk about countries, organizations, governments, the private sector, NGOs, and the extent to which these technologies are used in creating value, which could be running my shop, running my startup, running the government, working in a school, being a teacher. Using technology to a certain degree is absolutely linked to what? Not the beauty of it, because technology has value because we are going to give it a value, right? It's linked to the fact that technology needs to do something good for us. Otherwise, why should I bother, right? I started using, ages ago, free applications with AI, and I, over time, became more interested and more competent in using AI, and now I have my AI agent, which is a piece of software that has been developed for my life and for my work, to which I give instructions that change all the time, and I'm beginning to find some value in working with this agentic AI. Now, there are three forces that are helping us to understand how work is changing. And again, we only talk about one. We heard the second one this morning from Mr. Oreshkin. And then there's a third one. So there are three forces that are moving towards one another and are absolutely defining how work is shifting. So the first is technology, absolutely. Has been for a while, by the way, not just for the past few years. The second one, and very important one, is longevity. There is a book called The 100-Year Life. It became very famous, and in the meantime, there are many other books. But we are all set to live at least up to 100. Now, if you ask me, do I want to live up to 100? It depends. If I am healthy, if I have a good mind, and if I can continue to have the energy I have today, I'm all for it. I will be working until my 80s or 90s. Longevity means that we are able, and we should be willing, to live longer and live healthier, which means we will remain engaged with work for a longer period of time. And we actually expect this time to be well beyond 70s. But will we work in the same way? No, I can already see in the room some people are depressed about the idea of working longer. No, we are going to change the way we work, because there is the rise of not only platforms, but also portfolios. Longevity is very important to understand how the system of work is changing, because in the same office, in the same school, in the same government, I have, for the first time in many, many years, at least 6 generations working together. And because, again, the idea of segmenting people into generations comes from the West, just because I was born in one year, it means that everybody born in the same year or around me, we share certain characteristics. Quite frankly, I don't buy that at all, because in the way I live and study and work, I have many things that I do that you could consider Gen Z type of things. So we have multiple generations in the workforce, and we have longevity that will make those of us young at heart work longer. This mixes up and changes the type of mindset, the type of skills, the type of motivation, the type of preferences, the type of values that we bring to the work we do together. The third force that is shaping the new world of work that nobody seems to like to talk about, especially in Switzerland. Oops, I need to go back 1 second. No, before that, one moment. I forgot something important. The fact that we have so many generations working at the same time in the system of work profoundly changes something that we always thought is an absolute truth, which is my age equals my stage in life or stage in professional life. The system where we are born, we get, if we are lucky, some form of education. We go through a career, and then we retire, which is the system every country in the world has been living with, and it's still with us, is fading. Is becoming less and less and less prominent. Because there's another system that is the one you see with the bubbles, built on the fact that the longer we live and the healthier we are, my age no longer equals my stage. I can be 20 years old and have the mindset of 150, or I can be 80 and have the mindset of a 35 years old, as well as the physical and mental energy. So age no longer equals stage gives me the bubble which we call life loops. We are all in a loop. At any point in time, whether I am young at heart, midlife, we are all in a loop. At the moment, today, at this forum, each of us is in a loop. What is the loop? The loop is the combination of our life at this moment, our work at this moment. If I am in school, my work is school. And most importantly, what am I learning in this particular time of my life? This is a very different way of looking at the system of work and how we go through stages in life than a straight line from birth, education into retirement. Loops also mean that what happens between loops are transitions. We don't teach transitioning skills in schools. We definitely don't do that in university or in executive education. But how do I go from one loop to the other? By honing, by developing a certain set of skills that will allow me to remain relevant in the new world of work. And now we can discover the third force that is shifting, that is impacting the world of work, and it is the human search for meaning, the human quest for purpose. What am I? Why am I here? This is a question that is keeping our youth occupied globally. This is a question that keeps me occupied because the answer to this question can change over time. My purpose when I was 20 years old and I had to escape a certain situation from a certain country was safety, freedom, and some level of financial independence. My purpose when I turned 50, and not because I turned 50, but it was a particular point in my life, is definitely now around learning. And I believe I am in this world to experience people, things, ideas. And therefore, I made my purpose thriving for myself and helping others thrive. The quest for purpose is something we don't hear a lot about, but it's the force that makes young people, makes all of us quitting jobs that are maybe well paid, but where we don't see a connection between what we believe in and what our employer or the type of work we do. This is called the Great Resignation. The quest for purpose gets people disengaged in business, in work, because they don't see a connection anymore. What am I doing? What is anyway the value of all these hours of work when nobody in the company understands what I'm doing and why I'm doing it? So if we look at the next pandemic, which is not COVID, we are currently in pandemic time. There are two pandemics going on, very much linked to the quest for purpose. One is the fact that engagement at work for the past 51 years has been low. Engagement is the extent to which I bring to my work or to my learning every day my intellectual energy, my emotional energy, and my physical energy. And because in business we love to measure, right? Peter Drucker said you need to measure it, otherwise you can't improve it. Fantastic. For 51 years, lots of organizations and industries have made a lot of money giving us the tools to measure engagement. And engagement remains stuck at 21% globally. Russia is doing better, 27%. Data from 2025. But we are still between 0 and 100 and the 20s. The second pandemic after engagement is burnout. We are in burnout. Lots of people who are either employed or in transition or looking for employment have a physical and mental state that is diagnosed as burnout. Now, when we talk about thriving in the future of work, I'm carrying with me in my backpack low engagement, and I'm carrying burnout, right? So when I try to understand the future of work and how the new system of work is changing, I have to consider these forces, technology plus longevity plus the quest for purpose. Then I might have a better chance at understanding what the hell is going on in this new system of work. So what is changing in the cake? The ingredients are changing, meaning the network of jobs, roles, tasks. I am a chief financial officer. That's my job. I manage the finances of the business. That's my role. What are my tasks? A million things, from checking the bank account all the way to ensuring that the next wave of mergers and acquisitions, we can afford it and we will make money out of it. These are man-made definitions. And typically, when we hire people or we get hired, there's always something around on the table called the job description, a role description. Those will disappear. And I tell you in a moment why they will disappear. So these roles and tasks and jobs are shifting, are becoming more fluid and less rigid. The second thing that is shifting is how these mix together. If you take a company of 10 people, 100 people, 10,000 people, a country of millions of people, all of these ingredients are moving. Why? Because I have the three forces that are shifting those, and I give you an example in a second. But there's something else shifting in the system of work, and it's a very important part of today and the work of the Open Dialogue Forum. The network of people and organization around my organization, around my system of work is also shifting. Because connectivity isn't just cables under the sea or under the streets to bring internet connectivity to someone. Connectivity is also how we work together with a co-worker that is AI, increasingly AI, and how value shifts in the system of work. So very briefly, let's keep in mind that if I bring AI into my business or into my school, The goal of it should be, first, second, and third, to elevate human work, meaning to augment my human capabilities by taking care of stuff that is not only repetitive, but also, quite frankly, I could do without spending all these hours because I can free up my mind and my human capability to do something better. And understanding this system is something that we are just beginning to get our heads around. Anybody coming to you and telling you, let me tell you how the new system of work is going to look like, run away because they just want your money. We are beginning to understand how this works, and we know that there are a couple of things that are very, very important. When I said that the job description, the role, the job naming are going to disappear or to have less importance in the system of work, I am referring to something that has changed my life the moment I understood that this was happening. Research informed me that I was on the right track. In the new world of work, we are all two things, all of us, regardless of where we come from, where we work, in which system we create value. We are problem solvers, and we are artists. And now you're sitting there, you're saying, what is this woman talking about, really? Why are we all problem solvers and artists? You can get rid of any type of definition of a job or a role, and it all boils down to something we have in common. If I am a teacher, I solve the problem of developing the minds and the behavior of the students in my care. If I am a nurse, let's imagine primary care nurse, I solve the problem of providing the best quality and empathetic primary care for my clinic, also in an effective and efficient way, to my patients. If I am an architect, I solve the problem of building or redesigning something where people will do certain things. If I am a head of government or a head of state, I solve the problem of setting the direction and ensuring my society and my country can flourish. So we are all problem solvers, but we are not soldiers, right? Problem solving is one side of us. The other one is artists. Why are we all artists? Because art is not just what people see, is what we make them see. This is a phrase that Degas, the Impressionist from France, said many, many years ago. I'm not talking about artists in terms of sculptures or painters, because I don't have the skills for that. Artists in the sense that we can imagine, paint, and describe a different future and drive our people towards it. If we are only problem solvers, we operate efficiently, and I'm sure very effectively, in what is our reality of today. But companies, organizations, and countries can not only be efficient. We also need to be disruptive imagination type of engines. And the more we work with the beauty of technology, the more I need to be an artist, because I have to still bring and lift with me people who are stuck in low engagement at work and people who are stuck, unfortunately, in burnout. In my life so far, I had twice clinical burnout. Once I was in Germany living there, and another time I was in the United States. I can tell you, it's an experience that changes you forever. And I spent 3 and 4 months of my life in a clinic on each time to come back to my senses. So I do understand the danger of burnout when we don't consider it, when we don't avoid it, and when we don't take care of it. So the new system of work is a very equalizing, because you can look at the cards of talent on the table, and instead of saying, This is a financial analyst, this is a CFO, this is a social media marketing expert. At the core, we all have certain enablers of what I call future readiness, and I come in a moment to that. And I can move the cards of talent on the table in a very different way, because what I've been working on for years, for instance, marketing is my field, doesn't dictate anymore where I'm going, because the competencies, the behaviors, the mindset that I have at the bottom are problem solving and artistry. And I can apply them to different functions and different industries as I work with my co-worker, more than co-pilot, my co-worker, AI. Now, let's look at something. Mr. Oreshkin has seen this presentation, and he mentioned it in the morning. This is an image that I generated with Gemini. I prompted Gemini to express visually something that is very simple. Think about the traditional pyramid of life, of business life particularly, where you have people at the beginning of their career. I've been there many years. People in the middle, the forgotten middle, often not the forgotten middle of the United States, the forgotten middle of management, because middle managers are the key to sort out burnout and to sort out engagement. And then we have leaders at the top. This system is changing. And we are going to live and work in a system that is more of a diamond shape. Why do we talk about job apocalypse? Because so many entry-level roles, again, the old way of looking at the future of work, are no longer there for two reasons. A little bit because of political and economic instability. So some companies in certain countries are saying, let me wait a moment before I hire. But we live in Asia. Asia is thriving, right? But we need to think about beyond Asia, because we are here for a global dialogue. The other reason why entry-level roles are disappearing, meaning companies are not hiring for those roles, is that those tasks are being done by AI. So can you see, slowly but surely, this is a massive shift in the system of work. It's not just a pyramid into a diamond on a nice slide. It's a profound change of a few things. Number one, less people at the bottom of the pyramid. Number two, a middle that expands, and a middle where many careers will take place for a very long time. Because in the new system of work, we are no longer going vertical career development, more senior roles on the pyramid. We are also having quite a lot of fantastic opportunities for horizontal moves that still give me more seniority, hopefully more money, and more complex problems to solve without going into the career ladder that we are used to. Now let's look a little bit about what this shift from the pyramid to the diamond really means, starting with what I call a new paradigm for human development. First of all, we know, because we got rid of the conversation about the future of work, we know that it's not enough for us, human beings, to remain employed or employable. If I'm young, I want to be employable. If I'm in employment, I want to either keep being employed or remain employable. That isn't enough, because look at engagement and look at burnout. We want to thrive, and we have the right to want to thrive. So what is thriving? Thriving is the bloodline, like blood in the human body, of this new paradigm called future readiness. And it's an area where also with the Moscow School of Management, SKOLKOVO, we are doing a lot of work in this regard, and one program that will be launched very soon about it as well. Thriving means that at any age, and at any stage in our life, whether personal life or professional life, there are three things that need to come together, like three brothers and sisters that need to live together. The first one is vitality, meaning, first of all, the feeling good in our own skin, hopefully in good health as well, with good energy, because we got a lot of things to do in the new system of work, and feeling that not every day, but in general, we are operating at our best. Now, you will know instinctively that nobody can live every day, every minute of their life with high vitality, just like we never are highly engaged all the time. I dedicated 3 years of my life studying engagement, and I do know that it shifts, right? Like level of energy in the morning, evening, etc. But vitality is a key one. The second one is learning, meaning not just going off for a week, I go off to do a course and I come back. No. Learning, feeling that we are learning something different, something new every day. Can be because I am at the forum and I am learning from all of you. Can be because I'm in the office and all of a sudden a colleague talks about something. I say, you know what, I never knew about this. Or like before, when I heard Cheng and science fiction, I love history books, so we are very far away from one another, but I was learning from him. So learning and vitality are 1 and 2. And in psychology, for many years, thriving has been described as vitality plus learning. But in business, we need to perform. I cannot just thrive with learning and vitality and not achieve my KPIs, my key performance indicators, which, by the way, we also will ditch in the future. But anyway, that's for another forum. I also need to perform. So at any point in time, if I am able to set up myself towards the direction of thriving, meaning vitality, learning, and performance, and I have a system around me, a system at national level, a system at school level, a system at company and organizational level, then I am on the right track to be able to say and feel I am thriving in the new world of work, at least for what we know today about this work. Now, this way of looking at thriving, by the way, thriving is bigger than engagement. A few years ago, Microsoft ditched the engagement survey for the same reason I told you, because engagement was low and they kept on measuring and nothing was coming out. So they said, you know what, get rid of engagement, and started to test thriving surveys. And I am not a fan of that, and I will tell you in a moment why, but it gives you an idea that companies are beginning to understand there's a difference between being engaged and thriving. Thriving is a full, holistic picture of how I live every day of my life and go through my highs and lows. And now let me introduce you, I give you the sneak peek of something that will be in the market towards the end of this year. I am writing a book on the human side of future readiness. The book will be published by MIF here in Russia as well. And so what you see now is part of what the book will talk about. This is the framework, the playbook that helps us thrive in the new world of work, beyond AI and jobs. So the first one, very briefly, the first enabler of future readiness is competencies. Surprise, surprise. This is where the focus is at the moment in the future of work. Competencies, skills, upskill, reskill, and you will be happy and will live a fantastic life. Not really. I need a few more things. Second enabler, surprise, surprise, experiences, non-work experiences. We know in research that having a life, even if it is one evening, 1 week of holidays, playing basketball on the weekend, playing boxing, I know in Russia you like boxing, whatever it is, doing these activities creates lateral thinking, also called peripheral thinking. So it gives me perspective that I can bring back into my education or into my business. So we actually want people, we want all of us to have some form of a life, not only for pleasure. Now we know that is also important because it comes back in the form of peripheral thinking. And peripheral thinking is what helps me to work with agentic AI. And when agentic AI tells me, you gotta go straight, my peripheral thinking will contextualize the information and say, hold on a second, because if I'm going straight, these are the problems I'm gonna face, and I can see beyond the corner, and I can make connections between things, and therefore, thank you so much, I'm not gonna go straight. So experiences, imagine how many employers, all of you are probably employers, when you hire people or when you promote people, do you ask, what's your non-work experience? Talk to me about it. No, we don't. It's taboo, it's haram, as we say in Arabic, it's haram, you don't talk about it. Now we do. The third one is drivers. I need to know for myself and for my team and for my students what moves me. What drives me? What do I believe in? This morning, we heard about 3 layers of sovereignty from Mr. Noreshkin. The second one was social. This is where we take the framework of future readiness and we make it work regardless of country, meaning the framework in Nigeria will look slightly different than the framework in the United Arab Emirates or in Russia. Why? Because the makeup of our culture is different, and values are not just the values of my parents or my values, are also the values of the culture that not necessarily where I was born, but that has formed me as a human. How many people at work know deep the drivers of their team, of their employees, or in a classroom? We don't. That's work we need to do on ourselves. The next one is preferences. We all have different ways in which we are energized to make an impact at work. Impact at work is the new kid around the block, is the new entry in the talent management toolkit. And now we have ways to dig into, Selina, how do you like to make an impact at work? And the first time I would say, what are you talking about? Then I go through the methodology and I understand, for instance, that in my case, I love creative thinking. You gotta leave me free to imagine the future and rally the people with me to go towards it. I will be very bored if I have to crunch the numbers. Can I crunch the numbers? Absolutely I can. But it's a waste of my energy because it doesn't get me motivated. So when I hire people, I have to ensure they complement me. So that's how preferences work. The next one is influence. In itself, at times, we think of influence a bit of a negative word. Oh, she's influenced by someone. But in future readiness, influence means, because we want systemic change, and systemic can be my office, my company, my country, my school, or the world, BRICS plus the global majority, that I need to be able to understand how people can make a positive impact on others in terms of the way others people think, act, or make decisions. So influence is a learned behavior. All of these are learned behavior. And I need to know where I stand for myself and for my people to be able to embrace the new paradigm of human development. And last but not least, potential. Now, in business, for 60 plus years, again, United States of America's business schools, we have learned to measure potential in terms of my past experience. So there are high potential programs in companies, very much everywhere, even in schools. And typically, people are placed in the box considering their past performance. Oh, Selina has done an amazing job last year. Let me put her in the high potential. Guess what happens to the majority of these high potential programs in the world? They fail miserably. People are promoted, placed in bigger roles, bigger problems to solve, higher level of complexity. Their team has changed, maybe they are in a different country, and they don't perform any longer. So, in future readiness, we need to go beyond my past performance. we need to look at 5 dimensions of potential. Very briefly, the first one is motivation. What is the motivation of this individual not to get a higher job or better paid job, but to work towards unselfish goal, which is that the team wins or loses together, or that the organization or the country or the government or the school needs to achieve certain objectives. The next one is inquisitiveness. Inquisitiveness is different from curiosity. I need curiosity as an attitude. I want to know more about things. I'm definitely a curious person, but maybe I do nothing with it. Inquisitiveness is when I actually act on it and I learn the science and the art of asking the right questions, which is what AI is all about. It's no longer having the right answers, it's asking the right questions. And last but not least, yes, I know I am on the 0-0, but I will finish, regenerative resilience. So because we got a burnout problem and an engagement problem, we can no longer push a system of grit and determination because people get burnout. I need to design a system of work where strain, the weight of the effort is spread, and where recovery, just like in sports team, they win. Why? Because they recover. They have a discipline of recovery. But in business, recovery, if you go to your boss and say, oh, I'd like to recover. Recover from what? Go back to your job, right? So these are the dimensions of potential in future readiness. Very briefly, how do we make this new paradigm work, which is very different from what we do today? First of all, we need to look at parallel steps that are practical and holistic. There is transformation fatigue, malaise. People are tired of transformation, particularly in business, because we transform all the time. This isn't a transformation. This is a train I can jump onto while I'm doing what I'm doing. So I am a woman of practice, and first of all, we need to start with schools. We have to move beyond the skills in education. Why? Because the diamond shape has less entry-level roles. So if I keep on creating a system of graduates, high school graduates, university graduates that have basic skills, they will never get a job because those jobs are elevated skills. So I need to help them develop those skills when they are in education or when they are in high school or university education. And by doing so, and doing so with the future readiness framework. The same is for high school graduates. It's fantastic to say, I have graduated and now I don't have a job. But here we are talking about systemic change. So I need to change the way I educate them so that by the time they graduate, they will hit the middle of the diamond, where the jobs are. And this is a big change, not only in the world of education, but also in the world of curricula. Having been a dean of a business school for 11 years, I can tell you it's easier to change the course of history than the history course, as they say. And last but not least, I would like also to say the following. In the new system of work, there's no failure. In many countries and cultures, when things don't work out in business, it's a shame. If you're an entrepreneur in some parts of this world and your first venture doesn't work, for the system, you're dead on arrival. Nobody will fund you anymore. But this is the opposite of the new system of work, where everything will come from experimenting. And if I experiment, I need to be very aware of the fact that sometimes my experiment works and sometimes it will not, and it simply didn't work out. So we have to create a culture where we not only focus on accurate completion, but we celebrate learning and we celebrate discovery. Last but not least, where do we go from here? We start by running several projects across the various parts of the system. Schools, high schools, education, businesses, governments. because we have no time to wait for the big transformation that will change everything, because that's not human. So we need to start in practical ways to bring future readiness into the global majority, because we have the demographic makeup, the economic power, and the mindset that allows this to be done while respecting social sovereignty of nations. And also, once we do these projects to begin with, where, for instance, in Russia, you have a phenomenal success story with School 21. I'm sure many of you have heard about this. School 21 is the project type of response to everything you heard about today, in parallel and in collaboration with the existing education system in Russia. Once we move beyond this phase where we are today, could be 2, 3 years, 5 years, then we need to start looking at systemic change, but we will have the mindset and the learning already in the system to be able to go and knock on the doors of policy changes, of infrastructure changes, and of funding. By infrastructure, let me just say the following. We get so excited about AI. There are 600 million people in Africa without access to electricity. When you fly over Africa in the night, you think nobody's living here. 600 million people without electricity. So let's not even talk about AI in the classroom or at work. When we talk about connectivity, data from the International Telecommunication Union in Switzerland from 2025 indicates 700 million people not in Asia have no connectivity, no basic connectivity. So they will never be able to actually do anything with AI until we provide the infrastructure that is needed. So I leave you, before I open the floor to questions that I can learn from, with something that has profoundly changed my life when I discovered this phrase, which is another French guy, Molière. We are not only responsible for what we do, but also for what we don't do. Imagine walking into your business tomorrow, or into your school tomorrow, or into your government office and asking your team, what did you not do yesterday?
Мне кажется, это прекрасный финал. Thank you very much, Dr. Selina Neri.